Israel has held an unprecedented 3 national elections in the last 11 months. Still, there's been no government formed. A government was announced on April 6th, only to be rescinded at the last minute. Surely God is in all this chaos as Israel teeters on the brink of the peace agreement that will trigger the final 7 years to Armageddon. Well, what unusual times we are living in right now. I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. I'm sure that you haven't either. But there's more than one thing going on. I know we're all consumed with the coronavirus conflict, the plague. Everybody's speculating on what's causing it. And if it is from God, why? And if it's not from God, how could it just be a natural coincidence, something so global, so world-shaking? But while all that is going on, there's another thing that's happening that is going to have longer range consequence than the coronavirus. And that is Israel is staggering toward a new government, which almost certain is going to implement a peace agreement that will signal the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and, listen close, the physical return of Jesus Christ to this earth. There's actually a very strong possibility that this peace agreement could be invoked yet this year. I want to tell you about it. Now, the peace agreement has been ready for a while. President Trump stated before he was ever elected that his number one goal in his presidency, if elected, would be a peace agreement between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Well, he didn't speak lightly. He immediately went to work, and by January the 1st, of 2019, he had an extensive 181-page deal put together to bring peace between Israel and her Palestinian neighbors. Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu asked him at that time not to reveal his plan because Israel was in the middle of elections. The elections were scheduled for April the 9th. Well, Trump honored that request and withheld the plan. Everybody was anxious to see it, of course. When the elections were held, nothing happened. No one won. It was a stalemate. Neither of the major parties could put enough seats in the Knesset together to put together a coalition of 61 seats in the Knesset, which is what is required for putting together a government. Well, after struggling, looking every way, trying to do it, new elections were declared. Those elections were held on September the 17th of 2019. Same result. So back to elections again. This time, the date was going to be March the 2nd of 2020. In the meantime, Trump's sitting there with this peace deal. He finally decided, and apparently Prime Minister Netanyahu agreed, that perhaps the deal should be opened up to the Israeli people so they would know what they were voting on. It happened on January the 28th of this year, 2020. Now, the interesting thing was that both of the major candidates, both Prime Minister Netanyahu and his opponent Benny Gantz, both said that they favored the plan. Consequently, it did not have the earth-shaking effect that possibly it could have when both of the major candidates said, I'm for that. Now, it didn't turn out exactly that way. Netanyahu campaigned vigorously for it, whereas Benny Gantz said, yes, I'm for it. However, I would want to implement it with the agreement of the international community. Well, the international community has not been able to agree on a peace deal since 1948. There's been negotiation after negotiation after negotiation, all to no avail. Most recently, the international community passed Resolution 2334, stating that Israel's presence in the West Bank, in the territories occupied in the '67 war, that their presence there was illegal, including the embassy in Jerusalem. Well, it's very interesting what's happening now, and I want to tell you today, because Israel just Monday thought they had a deal, but it was the deal that wasn't. We'll be back.
I have left a piece of my heart in Israel and her people. We would like to thank Endtime for doing such an awesome job with our Israel tour. We marvel at your team keeping the time schedule, keeping everyone comfortable, the wonderful driver, the brilliant guide, the entire tour program, good hotel choices, and stellar food. We had the privilege to rub shoulders with Pastor Baxter, listen to his current teachings, and had some interesting questions answered so eloquently. He is wonderful. Helene from Australia.
Experience the Holy Land in the most amazing way. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter for our upcoming Israel tour. For more information, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
We've seen Bible prophecy fulfilled like never before. From the halls of the United Nations to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, Endtime Ministries continues to reveal the Bible prophecy in the news headlines around the world every day. Whether it's through our broadcast or online at our Jerusalem Prophecy College, your gifts enable us to put vital materials in the hands of those who need it most. Because of you, we continue to replace fear with faith in the hearts of Christians around the world. We will continue to see prophecy come to pass at an even swifter pace. We need your support. Your donation of any amount enables us to continue to broadcast and be a voice in the ever-growing censored media. To become a partner or give a one-time gift, visit endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME right now. That's 800-363-8463. Go online now. Visit endtime.com.
Well, I've never carried a live nuclear bomb. I have no desire to. I've never even had a live hand grenade. However, I almost have the feeling that's what I'm dealing with today. Between Benny Gantz and Benjamin Netanyahu, they're attempting to put together a government. It's like they've been throwing this hot potato back and forth, back and forth. Whenever this government is put together, it appears certain that the government is then going to implement Trump's peace plan, creating a Palestinian state in the West Bank, and also legitimatizing the Jewish settlements that are mingled out there in the West Bank. It's all prophesied in detail in your Bible. So I'm going to try my best today to bring the picture into stark focus, if I possibly can. I want to take you, first of all, to an article that was published just on Monday, April the 6th. The title of the article, Likud, Blue and White, Nearing Deal After Threat. Now, the Likud party is Benjamin Netanyahu's party. The Blue and White, that's Benny Gantz's party. Here's some quotes from this particular article. The Likud and Blue and White are expected to finalize their agreement on a new government on Monday night, after significant progress was made when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Blue and White Chairman Benny Gantz met at Netanyahu's Jerusalem residence on Monday. Now, it's interesting that Netanyahu is presently under quarantine. I think he gets out after Wednesday. But because his health minister tested positive for the coronavirus, and he had recently been with that health minister, then Netanyahu went into quarantine for 7 days, which was what was required. Well, this deal that they have been negotiating, Gantz comes over to Netanyahu's house and he makes sure he stays far enough away from him. The distancing that they have asked all of us to do. Well, they struck a deal on Monday. The deal reportedly was made possible after Gantz compromised on how and when to implement U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East peace plan. And Netanyahu compromised on controlling the selection committee for new judges. Now, I want to make sure we get this. In all these goings back and forth, the number one issue it boils down is this peace plan, which the Bible says, when it is implemented, will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ to this earth. Now, you can't get any bigger event than that unless you want to talk about the first coming. So here we are on the brink now of the second coming, and it has become the peace agreement that will trigger the final 7 years to that second coming has become the central issue in negotiating for a peace agreement in Israel. Now, already in July, if this deal can be implemented, Netanyahu will be able to bring the plan to the Israeli cabinet for a vote. Netanyahu will have to, according to their negotiations, consult with Benny Gantz and with President Trump on the plan. But Gantz will not have veto power on the plan. Gantz also gave up on his demand to coordinate the plan with the king of Jordan. So what's all this mean? This means that 2.5 months after putting the government together, which could happen within days now, we thought we had it on Monday, within 2.5 months, around July the 10th, Netanyahu will be able to implement this plan, which means he will declare sovereignty over the, 850,000 Jews that are living in the West Bank, in the area called Judea Samaria, in the territory that was captured in the 1967 war. Plus, he will be able to annex the Jordan Valley along the Jordan River. Now, this is what the Trump peace plan calls for. Now, if in fact the Palestinians would enter the negotiations, they'll end up getting a homeland out of this in the area called the West Bank. All of this is set in Trump's peace plan, And according to the negotiations that we thought were finalized on Monday, then this agreement will be implemented around July the 10th. Now, earlier, Benny Gantz, who is also now the Knesset speaker, warned Netanyahu that if he would not make concessions leading to the signing of an agreement by Monday, that was the 6th, that he, the Speaker of the Knesset, Benny Gantz, would enable the advancement of anti-Netanyahu legislation. Now, the legislation includes bills that would limit a prime minister to 2 terms in office, which Netanyahu has already had. That would mean if that was passed, Netanyahu could not even apply to be prime minister again. And it also would prevent for an indicted minister of the Knesset from forming the government. So right now, Netanyahu is under indictment. His trial is scheduled presently for the month of May. If, in fact, Gantz, who now controls the Knesset because he's the speaker, if he's able to go in there and get these 2 laws passed, then Netanyahu is disqualified. Gantz threatened Netanyahu with doing this if no government was created by Monday. So Netanyahu agreed to a government. They had all of the pages printed of the agreement. And when the blue and white party, when Gantz shows up to sign the papers, 4 copies were laid out there for their signature. Also, they had the kosher wine, which apparently is customary at a grand occasion like this. So when Gantz shows up, all of a sudden, Netanyahu says, wait, there's been a hitch. Now, the problem is the conservative side of Netanyahu's coalition has one other big requirement. Naftali Bennett, who's presently the defense minister of Israel and the head of the Yemeni party, and his co-ruler, Eilat Shaked. Shaked was the justice minister of Israel for a couple of years back. She made great strides in getting the Supreme Court out from under the clutches of the liberals. If you remember, over the last 20 or 30 years, our Supreme Court has been under liberals, and they've been able to declare unconstitutional many things passed by our Congress. Well, the same thing has been true in Israel. The Israeli Supreme Court has declared anything they did not like in the Knesset as illegal. And so far, nobody has been able to buck them on it. But Eilat Shaked, as she was the justice minister of Israel for about 2 years, she was very quickly changing things, installing judges. I think she was able to appoint like 364 judges. So she's preparing the way for some of those judges, most of them conservative, and they would be people who would strictly interpret the law, not legislate the law from the bench. Does that sound familiar? That's what's been happening here. Now then, President Trump is in the process of appointing conservative judges. He's appointed more judges than almost any president ever has. And if one more judgeship on the Supreme Court changes place, the balance of the Supreme Court, which has been liberal until now, will shift to more conservative. And some of the things that have been passed by the Supreme Court that have been ruled on will be able to shift and bring America back to its senses. Well, the exact same thing is going on in Israel, but Netanyahu had bartered that away in this coalition agreement that he was ready to sign Monday evening. But the word got out, and his phone began to ring. Naftali Bennett, Eilat Shaked, and many others were calling him saying, you are getting ready to destroy everything we've accomplished over the last several years, and we're going to be back in the same old mess again. You cannot sign this agreement. So at the last minute, Netanyahu bailed, but it was too late that day for Gantz to go back and set these laws in motion that would have removed Netanyahu from contention. Well, when Gantz walked out with his negotiators, nothing was done the next day on Tuesday, because now the game is shifting. The problem is Passover starts Wednesday evening. It's already started in Israel right now. And when Passover starts, nothing happens. Now, Gantz's mandate to put together a government ends next Monday. The Passover ends up on Friday. But Saturday's a Sabbath, nothing happens that day. So all you have left is on Monday, and apparently Netanyahu has calculated that Gantz won't have enough time left to carry out his threat. We're going to pass laws against you. And everything's going to shift on Monday. Now, I don't understand all the nuances and the intricacies of Israeli law, but you're talking about high-stakes drama going on, and you're negotiating with the slickest politician Israel has ever seen, the one who has already served longer as prime minister than any other prime minister in the history of the nation of Israel. So we've got this huge chess game going on right now as Netanyahu is attempting to put in place the government that he really desires. But don't forget, Netanyahu's number one goal is this peace deal. And that peace deal appears to be the peace deal prophesied 2,500 years ago in the Bible that will signal the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the physical return of Jesus Christ himself to this earth. It's the one prophecy we have that puts a time on the second coming of Jesus Christ. Okay. Now, I want to take you to another article. This is from Israel National News, again on Monday, the 6th of April. This article says, report, these are the understandings between Likud and Blue and White. Under the agreement, the application of sovereignty of Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley will be promoted within 2.5 months, following a consultation with MK Benny Gantz, and if the American government consents to the move. Now, Trump, it's his plan. He wants to promote it, so I doubt seriously that he is not going to approve it. Likud officials said that the apparent agreement on the issue of sovereignty, that after a short time Netanyahu will be able to bring the sovereignty to the vote-in government, is a great achievement for the Likud party. Netanyahu will have to consult with Gantz and gain American support, but not beyond that, the sources told Can 11 News. Now, the point is, he's got to consult with Gantz, but Gantz has no veto. If they cannot agree, Netanyahu can go ahead with the action anyway. Another article follows immediately on that. This again, Monday the 6th. I mean, the media was hot. It was popping on the 6th because everybody's been trying to get a government for 11 months, and it looks like they have one, and then all the maneuvering sets in. The title of this article, Annexation Set for July. After Likud, Blue and White, complete deal. They thought they had a deal. This is the Jerusalem Post. Here's what it said. The agreement's signing was postponed after Likud tried to walk back its compromises enabling blue and white to control the Judicial Selection Committee. In other words, they'd be able to control who goes on to the Israeli Supreme Court. And that has huge ramifications after that. But even as blue and white representatives left the Prime Minister's office, they admitted that agreements had been reached on all remaining issues when Netanyahu and Gantz met at Netanyahu's Jerusalem residence on Monday and said they expected the signing to take place soon. Netanyahu compromised on the Judicial Selection Committee and Gantz on how and when to implement U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East peace plan. In other words, Netanyahu compromised on the judicial government's, the judicial cabinet members' control, and Gantz compromised on the peace plan and when it could be implemented, especially the clauses applying to the sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, which is exactly opposite what the UN passed way back in December the 23rd of 2016, called Resolution 2334. Now, this is going to uproot all that. This is flying straight in the face of the international community. Thank you, Donald Trump. As early as July the 10th, Netanyahu can bring the plan to the cabinet for a vote. He would have to consult with Gantz and U.S. President Trump, but Gantz would have no veto power. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring all this together for you. This whole struggle is on the greatest prophetic fulfillment in the last 2,000 years. That's where we are right now. That is the peace agreement that will result in the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, you got to get ready for this. This will be the most important 7 years since Jesus was here on the earth. If you want to get ready, enroll in the Jerusalem Prophecy College, JerusalemProphecyCollege.com.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter. This book by Irvin's grandson provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your relationship with God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at Endtime will help you find your purpose and eliminate fears. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Get your book for only $14.99. Call 1-800-363-8463 or go to endtime.com/move.
I have left a piece of my heart in Israel and her people. We would like to thank Endtime for doing such an awesome job with our Israel tour. We marvel at your team keeping the time schedule, keeping everyone comfortable, the wonderful driver, the brilliant guide, the entire tour program, good hotel choices, and stellar food. We had the privilege to rub shoulders with Pastor Baxter, listen to his current teachings, and had some interesting questions answered so eloquently. He is wonderful. Helene from Australia.
Experience the Holy Land in the most amazing way. Join Irvin and Judy Baxter for our upcoming Israel tour. For more information, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archive button.
Now, we will be taking your calls in the later half of the program, but I've got a few things that I want to tell you before we finish here. Now, I mentioned very briefly just before the break that if you want to prepare yourselves for this final 7-year period, if all this gets done as planned, then this agreement will be signed somewhere around, or I should say, the peace agreement will be implemented somewhere around July the 10th. At least that's when Netanyahu would try to exercise sovereignty over the settlements and also over the Jordan Valley. Now, whether that particular time will also create a Palestinian state or not, that may wait until the General Assembly of the United Nations meets in September. We'll have to wait and see how all that pans out. Okay. Now, don't forget I told you that earlier, Benny Gantz, who's presently serving as the Knesset Speaker, he warned Netanyahu that if he would not make concessions leading to the signing of an agreement by Monday, the 6th, he would enable the advancement of anti-Netanyahu legislation, such as bills that would limit a prime minister to 2 terms in office and prevent an indicted MK from forming the government. So what happened? So Monday afternoon, Netanyahu agrees. They come back for the signing ceremony at 7 o'clock in the evening, and Netanyahu says, wait just a minute. We have a problem. He says, we've got to have some kind of relief concerning who's going to appoint all of the members to the Israeli Supreme Court. Well, the next article tells it perhaps better than I can. It's entitled, Benjamin Netanyahu's Successful Stalling Strategy. Here's what the article said. The agreement between Blue and White and Likud on a national unity government had been printed in 4 copies, ready to be signed, laid out on the table. There was even kosher for Passover wine on the table at the Prime Minister's office. But then, the head of the Likud negotiating team, Tourism Minister Yariv Levin, called Benjamin Netanyahu's residence, where the Prime Minister will remain quarantined until Wednesday, thanks to Health Minister Yaakov Litzman, who tested positive for the virus. Whether it was Netanyahu who pushed Levin or vice versa, following the call, the Likud backtracked from its compromises on the Judicial Selection Committee. Blue and White left the Prime Minister's office in protest, and talks have not been held since. But there's been no legislation passed against Netanyahu either. It appears that Netanyahu is stalling. One reason for the Likud's behavior could be pressure from the right to not compromise. Netanyahu has been speaking to Yamina leader Naftali Bennett every day, and Likud sources said Bennett has been getting on Netanyahu's nerves. Now, I want to pause right there to say this. Bennett right now is serving as defense minister, but he's also been given the job of handling the coronavirus crisis in Israel. And he's getting exceedingly high marks for the way he's handling everything. He's getting all positive marks from both the left and the right. Well, Netanyahu sees that he's dealing with a very popular person here who is demanding we cannot destroy all the gains we've made over the last several years concerning the control of the Israeli Supreme Court. And as the article said, apparently Netanyahu, Bennett's been getting on his nerves. Now, the other possibility is that Netanyahu purposely stalled until the Knesset's final day of voting before the parliament adjourned for its Passover recess. So we get to 7 o'clock on Monday, that's the final day of voting, and then all of a sudden, Netanyahu says, oh, wait a minute, I've got a problem. And the Knesset is not supposed to be back in town until the end of Passover, which will be Saturday evening. And then Sunday, it's very unlikely they'll do any voting that day. And then Gantz loses his mandate to form a government on this coming Monday. Now, Gantz's mandate to form a government ends next Monday night, and even though Gantz is Knesset Speaker, he is unlikely to convene the Knesset before then. Once Gantz is at the end of his mandate, he will have no leverage left, according to this article, and he will have to make more concessions to Netanyahu. Netanyahu, by contrast, is at the peak of his popularity, according to Wednesday's Jerusalem Post poll that found that if elections would be held now, his Likud would win 42 seats. They only won 36 in the last election. And his right bloc would have 64 seats, enough to put a government together without Gantz's party, and then Netanyahu could do what he wanted to do. Now, why has the popularity of Netanyahu shot upward? Two reasons, but the main one is this. Gantz, during the campaign, promised that he would not bring the Arab faction into his coalition in order to form a government. Well, once he was given the mandate, within one day, he announced he was going to do that. So he lied to get votes. Now that all the people that voted for him and trusted what he said, they're getting ready to shift their votes over to Netanyahu. And according to the poll, if the voting for the next election were held today, he would get 42 seats instead of 36, which would put him over the top so he could form a government without sharing power with Benny Gantz at all. Well, Gantz says Netanyahu prevented a government. Now, this was published just today in the Jerusalem Post. Israel could have already had a national unity government as the Passover holiday began, but does not because of the behavior of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Blue and white leader Benny Gantz said in a Facebook post on Wednesday. Gantz wrote the post 2 days after the Likud backtracked on understandings between the two parties that had already completed an agreement that was ready to be signed on Monday evening. No negotiations have taken place since then. Now, next step in the whole operation that's going on here. This comes from Israel National News today. Netanyahu, Gantz agreed to resume talks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Blue and White Chairman Benny Gantz to wish him a happy Passover holiday on Wednesday afternoon. Now, he just now tricked Gantz on Monday. Pulled a fast one on him. Now he calls him today to wish him a happy Passover. Both spoke of the need for a national emergency government to benefit the people of Israel at this time. The two also agreed to continue their discussions during the holiday. Earlier, Gantz blamed the impasse in the negotiations on the Likud party's demand to damage the proper work of the Judiciary Committee. The Likud responded that from the first moment it was agreed that the government of unity and equality would establish two clear principles: joint decision-making on all issues and promoting the application of sovereignty to the West Bank settlements. Unfortunately, at the last moment, Blue and White reneged on those agreements, which are a necessary basis for any equitable government. Now, wait a minute. Netanyahu is accusing Gantz from reneging on agreement. Well, what Gantz did, he put Netanyahu in a headlock and said, you sign an agreement by Monday or I'm going to go to the Knesset and pass these two laws against you so that you will never be prime minister again. So what's Netanyahu do? He agrees to it until the Knesset is out of session and won't be back in session till after all this week Passover. And the next day, Gantz ends his mandate to be able to form a government. In the meantime, this poll comes out showing that Gantz's popularity has dropped down. And if there was a vote held today, his party would only get about 15 seats, and Netanyahu's will get 42 seats. So the next time Netanyahu and Gantz sit down together, I can just imagine that Netanyahu conveniently has this poll sitting in front of him for Gantz to take a look at. Now, this article goes on to say Likud officials also said that once blue and white returns to the original agreements, the deal can be finalized and a unity government established. False blue and white media spins do not bring unity closer, but keep it farther away. So Netanyahu is claiming that blue and white tried to shift things by using mafia-like tactics. If you don't sign this, we're going to kill your wife, we're going to kill your kids. Now, that's not what he said, but he did say, we're going to pass laws that are going to keep you from ever being MK again. And you know, you're scheduled to go on trial in May, and the very Supreme Court that you want to change is the one that allowed you to be indicted. And furthermore, the blue and white wants to put at the head of the Judicial Committee the very person that was responsible for getting Netanyahu indicted. Now, can you imagine any reason why Netanyahu would like to stop that? You better believe. Now, when you're dealing with Netanyahu, he's held the position of UN ambassador to the United Nations from Israel. He's been the finance minister, he's been the foreign minister, he's been the defense minister, and he's been the prime minister more years than anybody else, including David Ben-Gurion. You're not dealing with a novice here. You're dealing with the veteran of all veterans. You're dealing with a survivor. Now, I don't know how all of this is going to come out, but I do know that this peace deal is going to happen sooner or later. Looks like to me it's going to be sooner. The odds are it'll happen in July or August. We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, I got a lot more to say to you, but I am going to come to the phones. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Does the book of Revelation frighten you? Do its symbols confuse you? For centuries, the book of Revelation has been misunderstood and misinterpreted. In Revelation, the unveiling of Jesus Christ, Volume 1, Irvin Baxter unlocks the mystery of the book of Revelation with in-depth analysis and commentary like you've never heard before. This 10-part definitive DVD series and 268-page comprehensive commentary book covers the first 12 chapters of the book of Revelation, featuring on-location photography, classic artwork, and symbolic illustrations. You'll walk away with complete understanding and peace about the events happening during the final years on Earth. These comprehensive study tools, available for $299, will deepen your biblical understanding as you dig into the original intent of the book, answering the mysterious prophecies and symbols of the book of Revelation. Don't miss this special offer. Call now, 1-800-ENDTIME, or go to endtime.com to order. Call or go online now to get this comprehensive Bible study.
Okay, before we come to the phones, I have this question to ask you. Let's say the peace plan was going to be finalized by July, or let's say by September. Now, I think one of those two things is a possibility. I cannot promise you, but it looks like to me there's a very strong possibility. Let's just say that it's going to be done by September. That's when the United Nations meets. that's when Benny Gantz would like to have the UN to put their stamp of approval on this deal. So let's say September. Where are we right now? We're in April, so we've got May, June, July, August. We've got 5 months from now. Now, you say, what should I be doing? You need to be educating yourself about all the events that will happen during the final 7 years. Fortunately, we have a tool to do just that for you. I know I talk about it a lot, but let me tell you, I need to talk about it. We're over 4,000 students now in our Jerusalem Prophecy College from all over the world. But some of you I'm speaking to today, you haven't enrolled yet. I want to compel you. I want to persuade you. If I could, I would blackmail you to sign up for the Jerusalem Prophecy College immediately. Now, here's all you do. Go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Register, enroll in your first course. And try to work on it every day. Some of you are being confined to your homes right now. You could go really fast. You say, I don't think I can get it all done by September. If you get the first 6 semesters done, you'll have a lot of what you need to know exactly what you should be doing, because once this peace deal is signed, and once Endtime Ministries sends a magazine to every home in Israel, 2.4 million homes, things will never be the same for all the people that listen to Endtime Ministries and for all of us that understand the prophecy of the Bible. It is going to be Katie bar the door. It's going to be like one big snowball rolling down the hill, getting bigger and bigger. That's what's getting ready to happen. So in order for you to get ready, here's what the Bible says about you. They that know their God shall be strong and do exploits, and they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Now that's where you and I come in. The Jerusalem Prophecy College is designed to help you understand. You'll be one of those. They that understand among the people shall instruct many. That's you. You'll instruct your family, your friends, your neighbors, your churches. Okay, so what do? Go to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Enroll and get started on your first course. Now, each course is about 13 lessons. I think the first course is 14, maybe even 18. The second course, but the average is 13. Now, during this course, I teach on video. It'll stream right into your computer. I teach for 1 hour each lesson. Then you take a quiz. If you pass the quiz, you push the button, the computer grades it for you. If you pass, you go on to your next lesson. This is not difficult. We're not trying to trick anybody. We don't ask gotcha questions. We're trying to educate you to get you ready for the most important 7 years, maybe in the history of the entire world. At least the most important 7 years outside the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. But these may well be the most important 7 years ever, because these are the 7 years leading up to the second coming. But you don't need to be wondering what to do when this thing hits. It's going to be too late. Right now, the next 5 months is the time for you to enroll. And I hope you'll not only enroll yourself, but get your whole family involved. Get your friends involved. Talk about it. Get everybody else involved. Well, can you tell I want you to do this? I'm telling you, folks, JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Register, enroll, and let's get it done. Because I can't promise you that it's going to be ready by September, but it certainly looks like it could be ready even before that. So you need to get going. Okay, I promise you I'm coming to the phones. Here I come. Here we go. Going to Ohio. Norman's calling. Hello, Norman. Welcome.
Hi, Brother Baxter. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
I love the End of the Age program. I watch you guys a lot. I read the Bible a lot, and I even give insight on Facebook about what's to come after this pandemic we're in with this virus. Now, could that be, I believe it's man-made, could that be something that could be leading up to a war, World III, that could push them into the peace agreement?
Well, I cannot answer for positive. From where I'm sitting right now, it looks like to me the peace plan may come first before the war. However, there's a lot of animosity being created right now because a lot of people think that China knew about this in advance and did not warn us. And furthermore, the World Health Organization, they also now are trying to use this to force everyone to take a vaccine. And they want to check everybody. When you take a vaccine, it'll leave a biological mark on your body so they can check you at any moment, and you will need to have that before you can go back to work. Now, they're already starting to implement this. I heard one of the leaders of the World Health Organization today, I heard him propose this plan, and that they would go to every house and check every person, and if there's any members of that household that are infected with the virus, they would immediately take them out of the home and take them to a place where they could recover. Now, that's not going to be optional. It's going to be on purpose. Of course, that sounds terribly close to the mark of the beast. I got a call from Germany yesterday, and one of my friends told me that they are right now going to people's homes doing blood tests in Germany to see if they have the virus or not.
Now, is that going to be part of where everybody's talking about blowing up Facebook, that we're hearing about the ID 2020 from Bill Gates?
Well, it looks like that Bill Gates could be in this. ID 2020 was actually held in 2016.
Right. Well,
but the goal of it is to give everybody in the world their own unique identification number. Now, whether they combine this fear of this virus with that or not, I cannot tell you. But it's certainly creating the mindset of the world to accept such a thing. They're already doing something like this in India. They're also doing something like this in China. In China, they have right now called the social credit score. And
I've seen the one in India.
In India,
and I've seen where the guys called it a new birth.
Yeah, it's called Aadhaar, which actually the word Aadhaar means foundation. And they have given 90% of the population of India now have this Aadhaar card, which they use for everything they do in relationship to the government.
Right.
So exactly, Norman, how it's all going to work out, I'm not sure I can tell you all the details, but it's obvious that we have powers set in motion right now that are ready to try to register every person and to qualify them for participating in buying and selling. So we're getting perilously close to that right now.
Right, and even in Matthew, I know I read that a lot of Matthew 24, verse 6 through 8, where it says nation against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and famine and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. When I read that and I look it up in Revelations and read through Revelations and listen to you guys really educate me a lot. I mean, just listening to your guys' program has been inspiring.
Well, listen, Norman, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I've got a bunch of people waiting in line, and we're almost out of time, so I'm going to jump off from you now. I appreciate your phone call very much. Let's go now to Pakistan, and Mawish is calling from Pakistan. Hello, Mawish.
Hi, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing very good. Thank you.
Okay, I have two questions, and they're very small ones. First one is that, once we'll be in our glorified bodies, so what will be our priorities and interests? Are we going to have some physical interest, like we want to explore the galaxies and universe, and are we going to recognize our families? And the second question is that, who are the two witnesses mentioned in the book of Revelation who will be preaching and will be killed? Can you please just brief on this?
I'll sure try. Number one, the Bible tells us we do not know what our glorified bodies will be like, but we do know they'll be like the one Jesus had after his resurrection. Here's what we know about his body. He was able to appear and disappear. He was able to alter his visage so he could either be recognized or not recognized. He'll be able to appear behind closed doors. And he will not be bound by the laws of time and space. He can be one place one moment, be another place the next instant. Which means, of course, that if we have bodies like that we also will be able to be one moment here on earth, the next moment we could be in heaven, because we will no longer be bound by the laws of time and space. Now, does that help some?
Yes, it did.
Okay, and then as far as the two witnesses go, those are two men on this earth right now that God is preparing to preach during the final 3.5 years called the Great Tribulation. And they will be people who will be exposing and preaching against the plan of the Antichrist and his religious partner, the false prophet. And they will be powerful preachers, the two most powerful preachers since Peter and Paul. They will do great miracles, and they will be true prophets of God, whereas the false prophet and the Antichrist will be Satan's representatives. So these two men are mortal beings. They're on this earth right now. We do not know yet who they are, but we will know before too long, especially during the final 3.5 years, we will know.
Okay, thank you so very much. And before I end the call, I want to wish you a very happy Easter in advance from me and my family.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your call today, and God bless you. Okay, do we have time? Quickly, Mary from Arizona. Hello, Mary. What's your question? Okay, I think Mary must have left us. This comes from Facebook, and Jeanette wants to know, is the third temple presently being built? The answer is no, it's not yet being built. If this Trump peace plan is implemented, it will allow Jews to pray on the Temple Mount, and in the first 3.5 years of the agreement, the temple will be built at that time, but it is not being built today. Number two, has the red heifer been secured? They do have a couple of red heifers. They hope both of them will qualify. They are being kept in a very secure place right now to keep them from any kind of harm. So that's where we are right now. The rest of you online, I do apologize for not getting to you today. Had a lot to do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, if you're not yet enrolled in the Jerusalem Prophecy College, do it right now. JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Let's get going. I'm counting on you. God is counting on you. It's JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. Enroll today.
This has been End of the Age, brought to you by the faithful partners of Endtime Ministries. If you're not currently a partner with Endtime Ministries, or if you would like more information, we invite you to call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or visit us online at endtime.com.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page.